Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to episode 21 of BDA Chat. Joining me this week, we've got the ever-resourceful Rob.
Hello there, good morning.
We've got David.
Hello.
Camilla is not here this week. She's at the D&D Festival in London. So joining us this week, we've got the youthful, resourceful, the youngest member of the podcast team so far. It's Cabe.
Hi there, everyone.
Can I just say, he is young, but he just had a tough paper round.
Is it the beard?
It's a very nice beard, though.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, you're Captain Birdseye.
Should have worn my fisherman's
Should have worn
jumper.
fisherman's jumper.
She should have done.
This week we're going to be talking about marketing to the online generation. But before we get into that, we're just going to cover off some news items that everyone's got. So who wants to go first with the news?
Well, shall I crack on?
Yep.
Yeah, go on.
So, big news is this week we are attending for the third year in a row the Great Places to Work award ceremony. So that means we've been shortlisted. We don't know what place we are yet, but we will find out tomorrow evening, which will be a couple of days before this is actually broadcast. So next week, we'll actually be able to tell you where it is we came. So very exciting. It's brilliant to be back for a third year in the row. And fingers crossed, we've moved up the rankings.
Let's have a quick round of bets. Right, what do you reckon, David? Where do you reckon?
Oh, goodness. I don't want to tempt fate. We were 11th last year.
Go on then,
A
pick
little
one.
bit better than 11th.
No, pick one.
10th.
10th.
7th.
7th. I'm going to go with 5th.
I'm going with first.
Yes, Kay.
First, nice.
Like it.
Put it down there. So 1st, 5th, 7th, 10th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so tune in next week, and obviously you'll be here. We'll be here, and we'll tell you the results. Lovely. So good luck, David. I hope we get.
So do I.
Yeah, first.
So do I.
Yes, that'd be amazing.
Rob.
Just really quickly, we've been doing some cool stuff in the office. We're in the process of redoing our interior.
Yes, that's right.
But the reason I bring this up is because we've been utilising the power of Microsoft HoloLens to do so. So we've been experimenting with it and pretty much using this mixed reality headset to position artwork around the building, furniture, so we can actually see it in real time on the walls or setups of room before we make final decisions. So again, it's a really nice use of Microsoft HoloLens. There's going to be more on the website showing us actually using it and how we've used it. So yeah, that's been really exciting. Enjoyed doing that.
You know, and what's great about it is a real life application of something where people will look at it, scratch their heads and say, what do I use that for?
Yeah, absolutely.
You imagine for doing that for in-store or experiences and things like that.
Yeah.
It allows you to live it, breathe it without actually having to create it first.
Completely. You can look at stuff on paper and flats and you don't get quite the feel for actually seeing it kind of in 3D and being able to walk around something, look at it from different angles. So yeah, really, really interesting. It's got bits of that going to go on the website. But yeah, it's exciting times using technology.
Yeah, I must admit,
Absolutely.
I've enjoyed using the HoloLens. It's been the only struggle I had. I'll be honest with you, I had to take my glasses off to use it. But obviously, that's a struggle you don't have. So on the internet is ablaze with news of the Chip Shop Awards, and I think Cabe, you've got some info regarding.
We found out yesterday that we've been nominated in 3 of the categories we entered. So that's food and drink, retail, and charity.
Yes.
So fingers crossed, we'll see in the future where we come with that. But it's a great honour to be nominated in those categories.
Yeah. Exciting. You know, we talked about Chip Shop Awards last week, but you know, the availability of boundless creativity, if you want to have it when you're actually producing stuff for it. There is some great stuff that's been shortlisted. You know, it is very tongue in cheek. I like the creativity that's been put together.
Well, I thought that was
There's some very good stuff in there.
And,
so fingers crossed.
Yeah, and you had the Whopper bus that we all saw online, which was really good. Not by us, by a student, but no, it was again a very good.
Where can people go and see the actual nominations or the actual?
If they go to the Chip Shop
Shop
Awards website, there's a nominations tab. You can see all the categories, and you'll be able to see our stuff.
Have a look.
Yes,
Check
have
it
a
out.
look.
Who gets to vote? I take it to the Chip Shop Awards judges.
They have
There's
a panel.
some judges,
and
yeah.
that,
So we can't sway the vote, but if the Chip Shop Awards are watching. So that brings us on to, I'll just quickly cover off anybody that's obviously I'm a motion boy, but if anybody's looking into getting into motion graphics or wants to find out what's going on in the industry, the NAB Awards, the NAB festival happened. I think it's in Vegas last week or the week before last. But from that, they have a whole array of videos and tutorials that you can go and have a look from industry experts. So I definitely recommend. You've got the Andrew Kramer there. You've got Adobe Creative Cloud. Anything from loads of techniques, from Premiere to After Effects to even Cinema 4D. So it's definitely worth. Just go onto YouTube, type in NAB, and you'll find all of the 2018 content. So I'd heartily recommend that. So that brings us on to marketing. I'm looking over here because there's a wall over here. Marketing to the online generation.
Don't give away our secrets.
One day, there's a whole team of people. Whole team. Anyway, so marketing to the online generation. Who's first to the bat?
I don't know. I think I'll give us a little lead in. And the reason we kind of chose this topic this week is because I think it's fair to say the sands have been shifting. You know, we had the different generations of consumer or of end user, and it started with the baby boomers, it went into millennials, and very much now the focus is still on this Generation Z or Generation Z, which again really affects the way brands, businesses have to talk to them, but also the way that they're consuming content, consuming media, and it's about really focusing on that. And you know, what are the trends? What influences their decisions? How do they go about, and what are they looking for? And a bit of a conversation for us really to just kind of kick off, and it might give us some inspiration on how brands, how businesses can talk to them. Seen as Generation Z will make 40% of the consumer population.
What is the breakdown of Generation Z? What's the age? Because is it
again,
how does it work now? Because I never know where I fit, let alone where the new zones are.
Yeah.
So have we got a quick breakdown of where they are?
Well, again, they're loose. I think they always said that Generation Z was literally born after 95.
Right.
So the mid-90s.
So Gen Z after 95. Anyone Gen Z?
Almost.
You almost. I'm
Gen Z.
definitely not Gen Z.
And then it'll probably take you up to about 2010. Born then, because again, it's growing up with it always online.
So
always.
it's Gen Y is 10 years. Is that what we're saying? Is that roughly?
Yeah, about that.
So
10, 15 years.
So 1995, 2005, we've got
2005?
2010.
So it's 2010.
2010, and then potentially, not a firm name for it yet, but again, Generation Alpha will be the next generation.
Who comes up with these
I
names?
don't know.
But Gen Alpha.
I think the interesting thing, the other reason we decided to talk about this was Lee, Rob and I, we've all got children. We all watch them as they interact with iPads, laptops, mobile phones, smartphones, okay, same thing. When we take them to a cash point, how they try and touch the screen instead of using the buttons. You know, how are they consuming when they flick around YouTube from one video, one channel to another? You know, how is that going to affect things in the future? How does it affect things now? You know, Cabe, being that little bit younger than our good selves, you know, what about you? You know, how we're used to going on the TV. We had 4 channels as we were growing up. We'd have to watch the adverts, all of that stuff. Everything was in black and white. That's what our children think anyway. Now, you've grown up and you've always had the internet.
Yeah.
Haven't you?
It's been very different for me. You know, looking around, learning some stats, things like that. The average person in their 20s and under is spending at least 3 hours a day on social media, up to 9 hours. It's becoming the predominant viewing platform. Things like YouTube are taking over. The average user is spending up to 40 minutes, which is across everyone, which doesn't sound a lot, but there are people like myself who probably watch maybe an hour, 2 hours a night of YouTube. So it's definitely a new platform, and obviously in terms of how it's evolving and things are changing there. It started originally as people uploading family videos, things they thought was funny, and then as time went on in sort of 2010 area, maybe a bit before, the content providers obviously started updating what they were doing, creating series and shows and trying to gain subscribers to get a constant flow of users coming back to them. And this has created people who are impressionable to their audiences. They're good to get involved with a marketing point of view. They do lots of brand work themselves, promoting brands to a younger generation, but who also now people are growing up from that 2008, 2009. Obviously, it's 10 years on. People are in their 20s now. And you trust those brands because you trust those entertainers, those YouTubers.
Yeah. Yeah, because there is that point, you know, you need to be entertained. We all need to be entertained, and we're all looking for experiences, aren't we, when we're consuming stuff. But can I ask you, go back to a point? You know, we're used to Twitter and Facebook and email and messaging apps, like WhatsApp, for example. But do you use those? People of your age, is email something that you want to use, or is it messaging? Is it text messages? How are brands, are consumers going to work in the future?
Well, it's quite a difficult one because obviously there is WhatsApp, and that is used predominantly by people. Google have just brought in a competitor to WhatsApp that they're releasing this week, I believe, called Google Chat. So they're trying to get involved in that market. But it's predominantly things like Snapchat. Obviously, like you're saying, you have the traditional Facebooks and Twitter. But if you look at viewing statistics for the age group, and I guess based on my own habits, we're sort of moving away from the time actually spent on these platforms. We're never going to truly leave them because they're so ingrained in our lives now. But we're spending less time on Facebook, less time on Twitter. And obviously, you've seen the rise of Snapchat, which is trying to stay competitive. And they keep their audience hooked by every month. They bring in new features. Maps, find your friends, group video chats, all of this can all be within one app. And obviously the competitors are trying to keep up. Things like Stories was taken over to Instagram, and it's seen a rise there as well. But Snapchat is very much still present and fighting with the big dogs.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because you said the entertainment point, and you want to be entertained, and that's what a lot of these updates are about. When you see the Snapchat filters changing constantly, it's about surprise, delight them, keep them entertained, as well as constantly adding those evolving features on.
Because so I was talking to my 14-year-old son at the weekend, right? And so I said, so what do you use then? And he went, well, Instagram and Snapchat. They're his go-to ones. He said, I never use Twitter, never use Facebook, never really sent an email. He'll occasionally reply to a text message. But the ones he uses are Instagram and Snapchat. And that's a 14-year-old. So you think, a few years' time, he's going to be the 20, 21-year-old that's the consumer, and he's not, and he's the one going out to work in a world where we use email all day, every day. There's going to be a shift, is there not?
There's going to be a shift, absolutely.
And I think we've found that in terms of people when they apply for jobs here, the younger people are less comfortable, I think, using things like, picking up the telephone. I think as much as anything, and talking to someone, or indeed leaving a voicemail.
And that's a really good point, because again, with Generation Z and this generation we're talking about right now, you have to meet them where they live. I mean, when I say live, it's where they consume. You can't go and put it on these other channels that they're not on. They're not going to go out and search for that. You need to meet them where they live. And again, that's an example. I think some of the response we've had to a couple of adverts have been through Instagram. A completely different approach to us, but we're aiming at that demographic, the younger end of the spectrum. And again, we're meeting them where they are, where they're consuming content, and it's consumed at a pace. And it's like, gone are the days of, I want to sit there, read an encyclopedia, long text, or anything like that. It's quick, consumable content. Instagram is very visual, very quick. Same with Snapchat. Again, it's just instant hits of information rather than long-winded.
Doesn't that sum up an email? That's probably why.
Yeah.
If you
email's the polar opposite, isn't it?
If you was to look at why, an email, and let's be fair, if you look at the UI of it, let's say, I don't know, I'm not going to take mail. Let's take Outlook. You actually, if you presented that, if you look at how they've designed that, it is the worst piece of UI I've ever seen in my life. There are buttons everywhere.
Yeah.
It's so confusing. But we use it because we have to, because that's the way of our working life. We have to use email, pain as it is. So if you could break free of those constraints and use something that's easier, quicker, prettier, you would.
Yeah, and we've seen it. We've seen it creeping in with platforms like Slack. Anyone who's ever used Slack, it's the next reduction of that down. Because it hasn't changed, has it? Those things, like Word, etc., too much from the way it was back in the 90s.
No,
heavy toolbars.
If anything, they've just tried to cram more into it to make it more sellable. As look, these are all the features we can add into it. What can we do to change it? So the new generation have just said, why would I want to use that? It's clunky. I mean, look at trying to set up a POP3 mail account on your phone. Username, passwords, all this. What? Yeah. I just want to talk to my friends. Or from a generation, from their point of view, they just want to share content and absorb content in the most easiest way that's the most accessible.
So can I go back to a point that Cave made earlier? So you said, how long did you say you were spending on YouTube each night?
1 to 2 hours a night.
1 to 2 hours a night.
But it's replacing my TV viewing.
Yeah.
Because I've subscribed to, over a number of years, and my interest, probably about 30, 40 YouTubers that I've tailored my content to suit what I'm interested in. See, advertisement is shorter there, so it's not these continuously ad breaks. It's more condensed, probably more tactical marketing, getting information across as fast as they can. So that's, one of the plus side. It's less advertisement, it's more content rich, and it's bespoke almost to me of my interests. And I can build up basically a channel list of everything I'm interested in.
I think that's the key thing. It's bespoke and content that you're interested in. And that my kids, I remember when I was younger, going out, getting ready to go to school, you'd watch, reruns of Batman, the 1960s, 70s show. My kids now, they'll go, right, we'll go to YouTube, we'll watch this chap, and he's going to build stuff in Minecraft. Right, that was Minecraft. And they watched that endlessly about, he's building stuff in Minecraft. Now, they just watch the LEA, and it's just all about Fortnite.
Yes.
And they'll turn it on, and they'll watch that for an hour, and they don't care. It's just, but it's about content that they want to, it's content that they can use in terms of Fortnite. They can go play that later or whatever, but it's relevant to them.
Yes, and that it's about staying sort of relevant with trends. And I think sometimes you try to force content across in a video, and it's because it's what you want to say, but then you see people when these trends emerge, they kind of combine them together. So it's, how can I get across what I want to say with the current trend? Now, it's not always game-based like Fortnite. Sometimes you get ridiculous ones like a 1,000-degree knife that was just everywhere. It was just a hot knife cutting through different things, and it was getting hundreds of millions of views.
Yeah,
Really. What about the blender guy? I used to love the
Blender.
Will it blend?
Well, yeah, that's what you hear from this generation. Talks about satisfaction. This is satisfying. Watching that knife go through things, satisfying. That's a word you hear a lot. That sort of gratification. And yeah, it's just weird some of the stuff that's coming out off the back of that.
Yeah.
But I think if you get involved in these trends, and you've got to find the ones that fit you, it can really benefit you as a brand. Obviously, like fidget spinners and things, they came out, and they were all over the place. And then companies were getting them and branding them up, and YouTubers were branding up their own and sending them and making video content around it. It's trying to stay relevant with the trend, but I think you have to get in early as well. So it's
That's
having
a really big point, because what we're seeing also, lots of trends, but we're seeing the life cycle shortened drastically for certain products. Fidget spinners, one day everyone's walking around with fidget spinners, the next thing it's squishies, and it's moving. Slime, I know, is another big thing. And again, these trends are moving quicker than ever. Back in, I suppose, when we were younger, it was Action Force, Transformers, and these things just kind of lived on.
Well, you think what it used to take to launch any media, you had radio, and then it took however long after radio was invented for TV to come along. And then you had the internet come along, whenever that was. And then within a very short period of time, you've got stuff which has gone global because of the internet. And this, we're talking a few years as opposed to decades, which is what it would have taken previously. So the change is seismic in terms of what's possible through marketing now if you get it right.
Definitely, and I think especially on YouTube as well, it's a platform I'm very passionate about. People are pushing the boundaries on there and trying to, as in the content creators, and they're trying to explore new areas. You've got things like KSI, who's one of the biggest YouTubers in the UK. He set up a white-collar boxing match with another YouTuber. They live-streamed it. It went out to 16 million people just tuned in to watch it. And there was branding all over the arena. They were really smart about it. It was at the Copper Box Arena, I believe it's called.
Okay.
And companies got involved in that. And it was just this tiny little event, which probably wouldn't mean a lot to people, got out in front of 16 million people.
And that's crazy, because what you just said, that seismic shift, it was only, heard it on the radio the other day, it was the first YouTube video was 13 years old yesterday. Only 13 years old. Goodness, and that's how far it's come now. Suddenly streaming live to 16 million viewers, whatever it is.
You think
that's it.
Do you think the influence though? You think people like PewDiePie, biggest on YouTube, he's got over 60 million subscribers. That's more than the whole population of this country. People saying, I want to hear when he has a new video come out. It's crazy how influential these people are, and therefore why they create such a media storm when they get it wrong.
Oh, definitely. And, you can capitalise on the influence. A lot of brands get involved, and, it's good things. You get live streams, like Coral, the betting company, they sponsor a live stream that's just a watch-along to someone watching football. So you're watching someone watch football. But it gets hundreds of thousands of views every weekend.
It's all become quite voyeuristic, hasn't it, really?
Yeah.
Watching people do stuff, unbox toys, watching football.
watching somebody play Fortnite.
Yeah. And if you're smart and you pitch the right idea to one of these content creators and you can sponsor their video or get them to do something exciting, obviously that can come back and help your brand massively. And it's not just, the younger generation or toys or games or things like that. You get travel companies involved, airlines, and all sorts of these different businesses approaching YouTube and being like, how can we think outside the box? How can you promote what we offer and get us out to your audience in an entertaining way?
Yeah.
I think the youth market also becoming, well, definitely I am. I think people are becoming more aware of the brand itself that people are marketing to. And I think I think a brand has to be, they've got to look at lots of other things rather than just the marketing, but their ethical stance and how they market themselves, how people perceive that brand, not just as its product that it sells, but where it sits within its operations.
It's almost become less about the actual product and more about the end game of actually what does that bring, what does that brand bring to my life, and what can I aspire to, rather than just the features of a product of how marketing and sales used to be. Here are the features of the product. It's more about the story.
Absolutely.
It's more about that end game, where you're going to take it, how it's going to change your life, and you're buying into that
Absolutely.
brand.
What's in it for me?
Yeah, and you see it all the time. I think that's the big shift.
I disagree with that. I don't think it's what's in it for me. It is what's in it for me, but what's in it for the other people? What's in it for the world? What can that brand make a difference in terms of?
If you look at it from the brand, but from a consumer's point of view, it's what does that brand say about me? What's it saying there? But then what's it going to bring to me? What's it going to allow me to do? How's it going to allow me to feel?
You're adopting maybe some of their ideologies by standing by and buying into that.
Which is what branding's always been about anyway, right? It's been about what's that aspirational thing that you want to have that's going to say something about you.
But I think people are becoming more switched on about that than they ever were.
Absolutely.
And I think there's more avenues for brands to go in terms of it's not just about I think it's moved on from if you align by this brand, you look cool and you're this and that.
Yeah.
It's more about the ethics now, and more about because I know I read I won't go into too much about it because I skim read it, but it was something that Stella Artois did about it was a campaign about buy a lady a drink, and what they did is that you basically every time you bought a drink you bought this limited edition tankard, but every time you bought a lady a drink you bought this tankard and money went towards a charity that they sponsored, and the take up was amazing. And so it was just a really successful campaign. What I'll do is I'll put some notes because it basically was an article about all these leading young marketers that are basically coming up with these radical ideas of how to market brands. I'll put the links in the show notes so people can have a look and just delve in.
I know we've got to wrap up in a minute, but Kate, just talk to us a little bit about esports.
So esports is incredible. I think obviously we were talking about Fortnite earlier. Just as an example, there's a Twitch streamer called Ninja, and he got Drake to come on and join him in a Twitch stream. Yeah, and it was peaking at 650,000 people live. Obviously, I don't know total across the whole time they were streaming. And it's kind of brought attention to an area that's definitely been growing in the background, and companies have got involved. So the esports market, it was roughly over 350 million people in 2017 watched esports events. And they were growing. BT Sports brought it on so they can now show it on BT Sport because it's growing. By 2020, they reckon over 500 million people a year are going to be watching. Yeah. Well, there's a variety of games. It's not one particular game to get behind. But it's a growing market. And I read an article and discussed it with a couple of guys here on Market Live, I think it was. But they were talking about how no brands outside of technology and gaming have really ventured into this area. It's very much at the moment technology and gaming focused, and they expect that to change. So it's one of those things, if you were willing to take a gamble, is there a market there that you could reach? It's like saying that you could advertise in the Premier League 20 years ago knowing it would be this success and how expensive it is today. And it's like, can you take the risk to get in there early, which is not really much of a risk, because how often could you say you reach those sorts of hundreds of millions of people? It's definitely growing.
It just needs, I think it needs maybe the game that at the moment, I guess it's all, there's Overwatch and Fortnite, but Halo.
But Coca-Cola sponsors the FIFA events and things
like that. FIFA. Yeah, FIFA's
massive, isn't it?
Yeah. It's millions of people that play these games, It's boys and girls around the country, around the world. They're all playing, adults as well. And everyone's just switching on, and the events are being live streamed across multiple platforms, YouTube, Facebook, all the social medias, trying to reach as many people as they can. Twitch, is growing and growing every day.
I always find it's the ease of use that I find, especially going back to YouTube and that and esports. But my kids can quickly. I still YouTube trying to. My kids can just find content so easy. Not even on a computer, just on a cable box. They can just find the content they want. And if you go to esports, you get these banners. It's like, click on Overwatch. Let's go, And I was following the London team for Overwatch, and I was just, fine, let's go watch this. And it's like, yeah, here they come, roll them out, they're all wired up. And it's really enjoyable.
They fill stadiums, massive
Yeah, I've
stadiums.
seen it. It's crazy. But they do. They come out absolutely wired up, buzzing. They've had their energy drink. Do you know what? There's still hope for me to become a sportsman, but an e-sportsman, because that means I can eat pizza, I can drink energy drinks,
but part of me just feels.
And I can be a sportsman.
But part of me does feel a bit. I don't know. They just kind of sit there like that. And you just kind of watch. You think, I don't know. It all feels a bit, but it's enjoyable. But they just come, anyway.
Yeah.
Esports taking over the world.
Yeah, well, hopefully, yeah.
And YouTube. Well, it has.
Yeah, it's already taken over YouTube.
Let's get on there. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Cabe.
Thank you.
Enjoyable.
Thank you.
How was your first venture on the podcast? Has it been?
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. Got to talk about things I like, so it's a good morning.
Awesome stuff. So I guess that leaves us with that's a wrap on marketing to the online generation. Looking at the wall again. So that leaves us with obviously our one, returning.
What is it?
Well, you may ask. It's David's word of the week, but we're going to give David a break.
I was looking forward to this moment. I'm really disappointed now.
Oh, well, we can't disappoint you.
No,
Okay.
I just put David on the spot a bit.
So it's David's word of the week.
And my word of the week this week is investigate.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, so there we go. David's word of the week this week is investigate.
Hang on, did he do investigate a few weeks ago?
He is right.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I think you investigated a few weeks ago.
Did I?
We've had creativity, investigate. What we should do is we should write on the wall so we can
I
have.
hope I haven't repeated
I
myself.
I think we need to go back and investigate the previous
I think you
podcast to
should.
see if he said investigate previously. Have you got a backup one just in case?
Not this week, no.
Okay.
Well, we're all going to go
I'm
off
getting
now
better at it.
and investigate if David has investigated before. So thanks for joining us. Please reach out on feedback on YouTube, on our social channels, at Thinkbda, on Twitter, LinkedIn. Thank you from
And Instagram.
everyone. Sorry.
And Instagram, sorry.
Sorry, and Instagram. Thanks everyone for joining us this week. We will be
Thank
back
you.
next week for episode 22. We're going to go and talk about what we're going to talk about. So until next week, we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.